Hey, happy Thursday, everybody, and hope everyone's driving safe and not watching this while they're driving. I'm excited today to feature one of our ambassadors of the Chamber on our leadership team, as well as just a great person. Our kids are in hockey together, and let me bring her on stage. It's Kirsten Ora. She's with Lotus Communications. I'm going to bring her on stage.
Hey,
Hi,
Paul.
Kirsten.
Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. Hey, thanks for taking some time and sharing the Lotus Communications story. We were talking before we went live a little bit about the background of this program, the Chamber Check-ins, and I'm so glad that you asked because it's been 5 years since we started this in March. So it's pretty cool. We started out as a way to just share our member stories, mostly our restaurants and things like that, just to check in on how they're doing. And then you had mentioned how cool, or the not cool, but the things we learned and the way we had to shift our sales during that time when you couldn't gather people. And we were talking about we had to do business after hours online, and that was a lot of fun too. And so we always are creative, and that's kind of segues into what Lotus is like. They're very creative and as a digital agency and radio broadcasting company. And I think it'd be cool to learn a little bit about Lotus. But first, let's talk with you, Kirsten. Tell us a little bit about your background and your role with Lotus.
Yeah, for sure. So I am a senior advertising consultant. Essentially, it's an account executive. I work with businesses to help them set up advertising campaigns, whether it's radio or digital ones. My background, I'd started in radio in 2010 in Minneapolis. So it was a much different market, but there's a lot of crossover in that space. And it kind of was accidental, the fall into it. I have a background in psychology and was put into a sales role, not recognizing the value of psychology and understanding people and backgrounds in marketing. That also is something that weighs heavily. So when I moved here to Idaho, I ended up starting my own SEO agency, a different form of marketing, and was recruited by Lotus in 2022. So they were a blessing. I mean, it was owning my own business was such an amazing experience that I can say now, but it was so eye-opening what business owners experience and how you can go from knowing how to do one thing really well to having all of these other hats that you wear. And I kind of had all of my limiting beliefs pulled forward, feeling pretty insecure or concerned that I wasn't doing it right, or there was something I was missing. I was kind of waiting for the shoe to drop, so to speak. And Lotus, their team was looking for someone with my skill set. And I ended up closing my business and stepping in with Lotus. And it's been incredible to have a team behind me to be able to stand in my strengths of connecting with businesses and helping them grow, but not having to worry about all of the other things that owning a business comes with. And their story, as you mentioned, I mean, they themselves are incredible too. So I feel very fortunate to have been found and be a part of the Lotus team.
Wow. One of the things I really get a lot out of this program is I learned something. I had no idea that you had owned your own digital agency. Now I know why Lotus got you. Good job. Congratulations, Lotus. Now that we're talking about a little bit about that company, why don't you tell us and help the listeners understand more about their origin story?
Yeah. So Lotus is a privately owned media group. It's one of the largest in the country. And it started with a man by the name of Howard Kalmanson, who is still running the company to this day at 93 years of age with his son. It started in LA. They actually started the first Spanish speaking station. and grew to, they are in 10 markets. They have 48 radio stations. And as of 2021, we brought digital in-house as well. So we have our own digital advertising team that, with a programmatic buyer, which if you don't know what that is, because who would, is a stockbroker for digital placements. So he's going around buying up the places that we run your digital ads, say on Hulu, the commercials that are on there, or the commercials on Spotify, or your digital billboards on websites. He's buying that placement, hopefully at the lowest pricing, so that we're able to pass on those savings to our clients. And yeah, it's evolved into this full service, amazing company with, as I mentioned, 48 radio stations on the West Coast all over, and then an entire digital team and aspect that digital has no borders. So we can have clients that are in New York wanting us to target the country or a different continent even.
That's incredible. So over 60 years, I think, right? Lotus has been from its...
Right. 63 years this year.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
40 plus radio stations, digital advertising. I love, you never know. You're watching the, like you say, Hulu, right? In or Peacock, and
Right.
these advertisements come up. You're like, how does that happen? But oh, you got it all figured out.
Right.
What would people here in the metro recognize? What are the radio stations here?
So we have 4 radio stations here locally. There is the X, so 100.3. They're celebrating 30 years on air this year. So that's incredible. We're going to have a lot of concerts and community involvement, different events that we're doing. What's really cool is several of the shows, specifically our morning show, our Nick and Big J, they have been on for eons. So it's decades. What we're seeing now is the people who were listening 18 years ago, their children are now also our listeners that grew up listening to them. And now they are fully functioning adults with jobs and, living in the community. It's great to hear those stories when we're out in the community. And then we have The River, another flagship station. So that's 94.9 FM. And they are celebrating 25 years this year. I know, it's incredible. And then we have Jack FM, so 105.1. That is a station that is really music driven. It doesn't have on-air talent. It is the playlist of songs you love that you don't think about. So you literally can have Queen song followed by Tupac song. It's the most random playlist. Yeah. Does really well in this market. And then our newest addition that we're really excited about is Hank FM 107.1. It is a classic country radio station. So think 1970s to early 2000s. Right so we just launched that in May, and everything else in the market didn't play anything earlier than really early 90s, late 80s. Country. So if you want to find those gems, that's 107.1 Hank FM is a great way to do that.
Kirsten, I love that you mentioned the X, because I knew the X when it was pirate radio, and it was in the billiards place now, I think where the Spearmint Rhino is now, where and that's where they broadcasted from.
I love hearing these stories because there's so much history there, and people talking about different life events that they remember what they were listening to, or some involvement in the radio. I mean, there used to be 30 years ago, radio was a different breed. The type of contest that we would have. I remember when I even got into radio, there was a woman shaving her head for concert tickets.
Oh my
gosh. Those kind of crazy stories. Radio has evolved. It's definitely different. And I love hearing the diehard listeners telling their stories of different things that they remember from Nick and Big J or the X, for sure.
That was cool. I remember playing snooker in the billiards table and seeing the DJ come out and and we'd had a few drinks and we're singing some of the songs, and they would be like, "Oh my gosh, this is so cool," right? Anyway, 30 years for the X, 25 years for the River. These are all the stations that we listen to. How can the business community engage with you, and what type of programs do you offer?
Yeah, so I mean, I've been in the business myself since 2010. One of my coworkers has been not just in the business, but at these stations for 25 years. So while we customize everything to the business, what their needs are, who they're trying to reach, like there's a strategy that goes into accomplishing your goals and getting your business to grow. But there's also a strength in experience from knowing what has already worked. We don't need to reinvent the wheel every time we have a business. Sometimes there's tried and true solutions. So a great thing to do is just have a conversation. I think there's a misunderstanding sometimes that if they talk to somebody, either myself or someone in the industry, that they might get sold something. And that's not the goal. The goal is to understand their business and really help them by being a consultant of learning what the value of each lead is, how many leads they're closing, what's the goal we're trying to accomplish, more phone calls, more web visits, lead forms. So calling the station and setting up a meeting, or call me, we can just talk about what you're trying to accomplish. And then from there, we'll have a better idea if radio does that or digital. If it is digital, what kind of digital would make the most sense.
Okay, I put your phone number on the screen.
Perfect. Let the phones ring.
We got some more time here, and I want to make sure we cover everything because you sent me some great notes. And one of the things you said, you really wanted to get the word out that Lotus has its own in-house digital team these days. I think that's important for many different reasons. Why don't you educate me and the listeners on why?
Yeah, that's huge. So a little backstory. About 10 years ago, 15 years ago, I mean, we're living in a completely digital world at this point. Right. But 10, 15 years ago, we were heading that direction. The signs were there. And so more traditional types of media, such as TV or radio or newspaper, had to get with the times and digitalize parts of their business. So what that often looks like is that you sell digital components, but you are outsourcing the product. So if you were to buy a digital campaign, they are hiring somebody else to fulfill it. You have a game of telephone going on of what your goal is, what you're trying to accomplish, what you want your ad to look like. And then by the time it gets back to you, it's nothing like what you wanted, or they're not really understanding your business. It's just like a checking all the boxes going down the line. So us taking it in-house and having that programmatic buyer I mentioned, so that's the digital stockbroker and graphic designer and a whole digital team supporting businesses, is huge. One, you have more control on your ads and you're going to get what you're wanting the first time around. You're also, there's a partnership the whole way through in creating the campaign, what strategy we're using. But then the other part is you're not going to be getting markups because we're not hiring somebody else and having to take our cut off the top. And then the next company has to take their cut. And you're paying for all of those hands to be in the pot and getting a subpar product. So us having that, we were part of the ones prior that we offered digital for a number of years, but it was in the scenario I'm describing. So us changing that and evolving to where we have our own digital team is wonderful. And they're actually based out of Boise here versus any of our other markets that you might expect, like Las Vegas or LA, Seattle. Our digital team and director of digital is based out of Boise, and actually was previously an ambassador years ago, Cappy Thomas.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah, she runs our team.
Okay, cool. Kirsten, this has been so valuable for me. And I don't think we've ever actually sat down and had a one-on-one. So this is kind of our one-on-one, but it's broadcasted, right?
I love it.
is there anything else while we have you that you'd like to educate the public on?
Not really in my realm. What comes to mind is just all that the chamber does for businesses. I'd like to take a minute to highlight you guys because I got involved a year and a half ago, very intentionally, wanting to create more roots here and relationships. And if I'm being honest, as much as I was wanting the roots and relationships, that first year I was really focused on just showing up and checking the boxes versus doing more relationship building, connecting with people, getting to know the humans behind any business to my left or right. And there was a switch for me to where instead of just showing up, I was committed to getting to know the people. And it has changed my entire experience with the chamber and the relationships that I have here. And also just the programs that you guys offer. You're so focused and committed to growing businesses and supporting them, helping them make connections. And I'd like to compliment and praise you guys for all that you do for that. It's been a great thing for me.
Well, we're going to have you every week on the show.
Perfect.
Kirsten, thanks so much for all you do for the community. Thanks so much for your investment of time, energy, as well as your investment with the chamber. It means a lot to us.
Perfect. Thank you, Paul.
Yep. Hey, stay tuned for next week. We have Savor Idaho coming. Remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Everybody have a safe day out there and a great weekend. Bye, Kirsten.
Just drive safe. Bye, Paul.